You're about to buy your dream property in Spain. Everything is perfect. It's a beautiful house, a beautiful apartment. It's in a great area. The numbers work out nicely for you. But there's one thing that you perhaps haven't considered that could really change the experience that you have in that apartment. La comunidad. So in this video, I'll explain what is la comunidad in Spain, how it impacts you as a property owner, and a few tips and suggestions from myself, a property owner in Spain, as to how to make sure that you have a harmonious and good relationship with your neighbours in la comunidad. Let's get right into it. If you're new here, my name is Jonny. I'm originally from the UK, but I've been living and working in Spain for the past 5.5 years now. On this channel, I talk a lot about life here, about the financial aspect of life, the practical aspect of doing things and living in Spain, also looking at personal finances, investing, and sharing my travels around the world. So my wife and I, we're enjoying a good Spanish comedy series at the moment called La que se avecina, which translates to the one that is coming in English, but I don't think the translation really makes sense in a direct sense. Anyways, this is a really funny Spanish comedy series, and it follows the lives of multiple property owners within a building in Madrid. And it follows on from a similar series called Aquí no hay quien viva, which is also very famous here in Spain. And this, along with some recent experiences I've had within my own comunidades of the properties that I've had, have inspired this video somewhat. So if you want to see some funny stories, then definitely recommend those series. But in all seriousness now, let's get into what is la comunidad and how it impacts you. So comunidad in Spanish translates to community in English. What it basically is the community of property owners within a residential building or kind of an urbanización, like a residential complex in Spain. To anyone from the US who's watching, this is probably comparable to the likes of a HOA. And in the UK, it's not really a thing that we have, but think something like a property management company or a residence association if you're living in a building that has common areas. And so essentially every owner of an apartment within a residential building, for example, or of a home or apartment within a residential complex makes up part of this comunidad de propietarios, a community of property owners essentially. And so amongst the members of the comunidad de propietarios, you have a president who is essentially a representative of the neighbors, of the property owners, and is essentially the main point of contact, the person to speak to about any issues that you face as a property owner. And then the president will address those issues, perhaps bring it to the other property owners as well to find a joint solution. So how is the president of the community chosen? Well, there are a couple of ways. One is that if someone volunteers to be president, then they can be president of the comunidad, which honestly, not a lot of people want to do because of the responsibility that comes with it. And so in that case, when there's no volunteers, it kind of goes on like a rotational basis or a draw out of a hat. If you are drawn or you're chosen or elected to be president, it's not something you really get out of because it's kind of mandated by law. Unless there's like really extenuating circumstances, like for example, health reasons or incompatibility with work that you're doing, or maybe you actually live in another building or residence and the comunidad that you've been chosen to be the president of is nowhere nearby, then these things may get you out of it. But in normal circumstances, everyone has to do it. And it's typically for a year at a time. You'll also have a vice president within the comunidad who is essentially an aide to the president, who maybe steps up in their absence or is maybe a secondary point of contact. And what you'll also have, who's typically either a gestor or from a legal firm and is kind of separate from the community, is the administrator of the comunidad. And so the administrator's role is essentially to keep tabs of everything that goes on in the community, keeping a track of the bank accounts, keeping track of any communications, organizing meetings, looking after things like insurance or legal matters that are ongoing. Maybe if there's maintenance that needs to be done, they can find a few quotes from different people and bring them to the president to then be voted on. Also keeping track of who is paying their monthly fees and who isn't, for example. So now that you understand the concept of the comunidad, how does it work in practice? What really happens with the comunidad? So the main forum by which the comunidad interacts with one another is through meetings known as juntas in Spanish. You'll have what's known as a junta ordinaria, which is a normal, standard, regular meeting to put it that way. Typically, you'll have one of these per year minimum by law. You could potentially have more than that. Of course, depends on the comunidad that you're in. You can also have what's known as kind of exceptional or one-off meetings known as junta extraordinaria. Now, usually when one of these happens, it's because there's an urgent issue that needs discussing, or there's an update on a key matter that may be ongoing within the comunidad at that moment in time. But you as a property owner, when these meetings are organized, you'll be notified at least 7 days in advance by law, if I'm not mistaken, and you'll get the opportunity to attend and essentially vote on different proposals, share your thoughts and concerns within that meeting. If you don't attend, it's not illegal as such, but you do lose your right to vote, to speak up, unless you assign your right to someone else who can take your place in that meeting. So it's definitely advisable to attend these owners meetings if you are able to attend. What kind of things come up in these meetings? Well, it can be an absolute range of topics. Just to give you a couple that have come up in some of the meetings that I've had, you'll have in the ordinary regular meetings, for example, every year, the comunidad will kind of present a budget for the year of how it plans to collect money from property owners to pay the fees, what it's going to spend the money on, whether it's maintenance, cleaning, electricity for the common areas, for example. So they'll give you a breakdown of the costs. You'll get the chance to vote on that as a property owner. You may get to ask for amendments, things like that. There could be things that come up like, the quality of the cleaning of the common areas is not satisfactory. We want it to improve. This person is not paying their fees and hasn't paid in a number of years. Shall we take them to court? Insurance of the comunidad is too expensive. Let's find something else. Things as well, something that is a very, very controversial one in a lot of comunidades is the topic of if there's not already a lift, elevator for the Americans installed, will there be one put in? How much will it cost? All those kind of things. If you've already got a lift in your building, then great. Obviously, you'll have to pay the maintenance and all that kind of thing. But if you don't have one, then it's a real hot topic amongst a lot of buildings in Spain right now, particularly older ones, because the law is making it easier and easier for neighbors, property owners, and it's also making certain circumstances compulsory where you would have to put in a lift or an elevator in a building. And so with that, it brings me nicely to the next point. So obviously the cost of running a comunidad, the common areas and general, residential complex or building costs money. And the neighbors, the owners of the property, have to contribute towards that. Now, how much it costs you on a monthly basis, it will really depend on what kind of things your building has. If it's a pretty old building and it doesn't really have much, it doesn't have a lift, it has maybe, a simple staircase and it just needs cleaning, you're probably not going to pay that much in comunidad every month. However, the more kind of things your building has or your residential complex has, then of course the more it's going to cost. Like for example, if you have a concierge, or if you have a swimming pool, or if you have a lift, or if there's like a garden area as well. These things obviously all cost money to upkeep and maintain, and so that's going to result in a higher monthly quota. That's why when I've talked about buying a property in Spain in other videos, it's one of the things I always mention, like you should factor in how much your comunidad is going to be per month. And if you are interested in working out exactly how much it's going to cost you to buy a property in Spain, then be sure to check out my property calculator. I'll put the link in the video description for you as well, where you'll get to go into detail with things such as comunidad, how much it's going to cost you in property tax to purchase it, how much it's going to cost annually, how much mortgage you will be paying every month, things like that. So all that to say essentially that on a monthly basis, you're going to be paying a fixed amount that's agreed on and set by the comunidad towards the maintenance and upkeep of the building. However, from time to time, things come up, things go wrong, something breaks, someone wants to install a lift, for example, and then the comunidad has to find the money for that essentially. Now, if the comunidad has money in the bank that it has built up over the years, and can use it already, great. If not, then it can go to the bank for a loan, but there's not always a high probability that the loan will be approved. If it doesn't have the money in the bank account, then it's gonna have to find it from somewhere, and more likely than not, it's gonna come from you, the neighbor, in the form of an extraordinary expense known as a derrama in Spanish. And if you hear this word in a junta, then be afraid. Nah, don't necessarily be afraid. But depending on what it is and how much it is, a derrama is really not great news for a property owner. Let's take an example here. Let's say that you in your comunidad, you're paying 50 euros a month. And then let's say, for example, you know, there's some electric work or some plumbing work that needs done that affects the common areas of the building. And let's say it's going to cost like 2,000 or 3,000 euros to do. What the comunidad will do is basically they'll take that amount, they'll divide it by the number of apartments or properties that there are within the comunidad. They'll probably break it out over a number of months as well. And they'll say, okay, on top of your regular monthly fees of 50 euros, you're going to need to pay an extra 20, 30 euros or 6 months, for example. And that's essentially a derrama. Now, the example I've gave is probably quite a generous one, but you know, if derramas go on for a long time, you know, that's extra money that's costing you. And particularly if it's a really big one, like for example, installing a swimming pool or a lift or something like that, that's a big amount that you're going to be paying on top of your regular monthly fees towards the maintenance of that. And so when it comes to things like this, and when you're buying a property, definitely keep in mind the potential for things like a derrama. Because if something is under discussion when you buy it, but a derrama hasn't been formally approved and then is later approved after you become a property owner, then you essentially become liable for that. You would have to take that on because it hadn't been approved before your ownership. However, if it's approved under the previous owner, for example, then there is a possibility, it's quite likely, that the previous owner will continue paying that until it's done. It's also another reason why it's important to turn up to these meetings as well, to debate issues like this and to vote on it. Because that's kind of democracy at work within the comunidad, essentially. You know, if a number of neighbors don't want something, like for example, you know, a swimming pool where it's going to cost a lot to install, and there's enough votes to prevent that from passing, you know, that's going to save you a lot of money. It might be the case that you want a swimming pool and you want to vote for that and you're happy to pay for it, but fair enough. But that's kind of the idea of, you know, going along and voting and talking within the comunidad. So with that in mind, here are some of the things that I would suggest for someone who is maybe buying a property for the first time. They're new to this whole concept of comunidad, maybe their first time living in Spain. Here's the top tips I can give. So the first is, unless you're in like a total expat community or whatever, then more likely than not, these meetings are going to be in Spanish. So to understand what's going on, you've got a couple of options. One is to learn Spanish. I definitely recommend this because, you know, it obviously helps you here. It helps you in everyday life in Spain. I've talked about it in other videos. You know, learning Spanish is a good thing. Obviously, learning Spanish, though, is a process, and not everyone who comes to Spain, you know, is fluent or comfortable in Spanish straight away, especially when it comes to some of the topics that you're going to be discussing in these meetings. So you can always, you know, take along a friend, or you can get to know someone else who, you know, maybe speaks English or can translate and explain what's going on. Alternatively, if you can't do either of those, you could, you know, give your vote to someone else in the comunidad and they can represent you in that way. Obviously, should be someone you trust, someone who you think will act in, you know, what your best interests and the best interests of the comunidad as well. Second tip is try and get an idea of what the comunidad is like when you're visiting a property. You know, speak to a couple of the neighbors, speak to the person who's selling from you, find out who are the key members of the comunidad, if there's any, you know, people who are behind on payment, if there's any problematic neighbors, that kind of thing, because it's better you find that out in the buying process than having a not so pleasant surprise later down the line. You can also try and speak to the president of the community when you're looking at a property to buy, or also, you know, one of the administrators to understand what situation the comunidad is in, if there's any ongoing topics. Like I said, if they're trying to, you know, approve any derramas for major maintenance, construction, all those kind of things. Those can be good to know when you're looking to buy a property. And the last point I'd say is pretty common sense. You know, try and get on with everyone. you know, make your life easy. Obviously, you know, there will be some problematic neighbors and you can't get on with everyone all of the time. But, you know, for your peace of mind and for everyone else's peace of mind, it always works to, you know, try and get along, be friendly. And I definitely recommend as well, you know, like speak to people in the building, like make friends and stuff. From me doing that, you know, I've learned a lot about how things work here in Spain. They've pointed out things that I maybe wouldn't have spotted or thought of. And it makes the general experience of living in comunidad better as well. Alright guys, so I hope you found this video helpful and interesting. Leave a comment and let me know how your experience has been in your comunidad, if you're living in a residential building or a residential complex. I'd be really interested to hear. And if you like this video and you want to see more about property in Spain, then be sure to check out these two videos here. So next time, I'll see you on the next one, and let's get this money.